Okay, we're starting.
Hi, everyone. We're going to start the program in just a few minutes. We've had some technical glitches that we're working on.
Okay.
Do you want me to promote them to panelists?
All right. Okay.
Mary, I just promoted Johnson and Jamie to panelists.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone. Hey, sorry, we had some technical glitches in getting the presenters on earlier, so I apologize that we're kind of going to go into this without a practice session, but I think we're all good. I know that you all have done this before, and I want to thank everyone. We've got a small group today, but the nice thing is that we do record these sessions and post them on our website, and often people will look at these prior to casting their ballots. So that's the most important thing, is to make sure that we get this information out there. And I know that both Jamie and Johnson have been working hard at getting this information out through a number of different programs and organizations. So I thank you and thank everyone for joining us today. So welcome to the League of Women Voters program on the Clean Water Now Advisory Referendum. I'm Robin Schmidt, President of the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area, and we welcome you to this brief program. I want to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope if anybody is drinking anything green, water or other beverage, that it's because you added coloring, not because it's not of good quality. So I tried to find green to wear. I wasn't very effective at that. I had sort of green, but you've probably seen me in this hat for quite a few other programs. So anyway, as you all know, as I stated before, the program is being recorded, and a link to it will be on our website, hopefully within a day or so. We're pretty good, thanks to our communications folks for getting these up on our website relatively quickly. For today's program, we have Johnson Bridgewater of the River Alliance of Wisconsin and Jamie O'Neill from the La Crosse County Board, who are each going to talk for 10 minutes about the Clean Water Referendum. And then we'll have 10 minutes at the end for questions and answers. If you have questions for the speakers, please type them into the question box located at the bottom of your screen, and we'll ask those questions at the end of the presentations. I want to thank our program committee chair, Mary Nugent, who will be spotlighting the speakers for today's program. We always say this at the beginning of all of our programs: the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage and inform the active participation of citizens in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and we influence public policy through education and advocacy. Johnson Bridgewater will be our first speaker. I apologize, I have a alert on my phone. Sorry, there's an Amber Alert. Just a minute. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'll start again. Johnson Bridgewater works for the River Alliance of Wisconsin and has more than 20 years of advocacy and nonprofit experience working on local, statewide, and international environmental issues. He holds a bachelor's degree in writing from the University of Oklahoma. Johnson grew up in central Minnesota. He relocated to Oklahoma and is now settled up north in Hurley, Wisconsin. Let's see, let me change my page here. Jamie O'Neill believes strongly in the health and wellness of our community. She came to La Crosse in 2008 to pursue a master's in community health education at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, and she works at Viterbo University as a STEM event planner and outreach coordinator. She's currently putting together a symposium on drinking water, which will be held at the end of March, and she also represents District 29 on the La Crosse County Board. So we'll start with Johnson. Johnson, if you can talk about the River Alliance, your vision, the purpose for these countywide referendum, how it came to be, and just inform us on the importance of it, and then we'll turn to Jamie for kind of the local perspective. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Oh, super. Thank you guys. And am I coming through nice and clearly for everyone? I always check these days. Well, gosh, thanks, Robin, and thanks everybody for sharing your time with us. It's a pleasure for me to get to talk with you all remotely, given this is a statewide effort. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about something, though, that you guys will have an opportunity to actively work on right there to support clean water. Briefly introduce myself and the organization, and then I'll give kind of the broad strokes overview of the Clean Water Now for Wisconsin advisory referendum. So yeah, my first name is Johnson. I'm the water advocates organizer for River Alliance, and I'm the newest team member. I just joined River Alliance last July, so still working on my first year. But River Alliance itself has been around we're actually coming up on our 30th anniversary of empowering Wisconsinites across the state to protect and restore water. Historically, probably our top issues have been mining, dam removal, a host of pollution issues, and we're now working on a fairly large agriculture program. You're welcome to look us up. We have a fairly easy to remember website, which is wisconsinrivers.org. So the highlights of the Clean Water Now advisory referendum, briefly I'll mention. So if you're not familiar with advisory referendums, without getting into the weeds too much on it, it's a constitutional right, and it's a great opportunity for the public to work with friends, family, and elected officials directly to get an advisory referendum placed on an election ballot in your community. And your county is what this referendum is focused on, county by county. And it gives people, a chance to really get your hands involved in trying to make the case for something that's important to you and others. Clean Water Now, it launched in the pandemic, so it's had kind of a shaky start, but we did officially get underway with the first 3 counties last April. So April of 2021, Wood County, Portage County, and Marquette counties all passed, and their voting percentages respectively were 76, 77, and 73% bipartisan yes votes. And then the good news is that you all in La Crosse, so for this April 22, both Eau Claire County and La Crosse County are going to have the advisory referendum on your ballots. We are continuing the work, however. So while we have a couple counties with the ballot in April, we have 2 other counties, Vernon and Monroe, that are working on Clean Water Now resolutions with hopes to turn that into a referendum edition. But that's a separate piece. And then as far as counties that we're already dialoguing with about putting this on their ballots in November, see Greene County, and these are counties we're talking with. These are not settled yet, but actively talking with Greene County, Iowa County, Bayfield, Ashland, Dane, Marinette, Dorr, and Milwaukee. Again, those are not finalized, but those are all under discussions to work to see if we think we have a realistic path to get that added on the November ballot. We're trying to use the referendum campaign to show elected officials and stakeholders that clean water has overwhelming support, bipartisan support all across the state, to prove it's a top issue among Wisconsin voters. And I know from chatting with Allison, there's definitely a lot that we have done with this, similar to the Fair Maps campaign. So similar goal, trying to build a statewide power that can then be focused in on the legislature, try to hold them accountable for, we'll just say, a failing record on water over the last several years. And sadly just completed, I think Wednesday morning was gavel out for this session, no significant water action, despite the 2019 Speaker's Task Force, despite the year of water. And despite having come up with a set of 13 pieces of legislation that they had agreed were important, were bipartisan, and here we are gaveling out and no significant action once again happening. So that's where we are. And I'll just stop there. It's a very brief overview, but later in questions, if you all have any more specifics you're interested in.
Johnson, could you, do you have in front of you the exact wording of the referendum?
I sure do. The question reads, should the state of Wisconsin establish a right to clean water to protect human health, the environment, and the diverse cultural and natural heritage of Wisconsin?
Perfect. Thank you. I was thinking I should have had that on a slide before we started, but apparently I didn't think of it in time. So
no, it was a good question, and it actually reminded me. So this is, we actually do have, I forgot, we do have things available. We will be at Viterbo. I'm going to do this so I don't forget, but we have yard signs available. We have postcards available, and we also have, similar to, again, League of Women Voters will be familiar with what we would call a toolkit. And given the timing, this would be more for people who are interested in following up for November, but it does have talking points, etc. And you can get any of this through contacting myself or going to the website. There is actually, it's voteforcleanwater.com, and that is a website just for clean water now. And sorry for tacking that on at the end.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. All right, so let's go to Jamie. Jamie, thank you for participating and thank you for your efforts on the La Crosse County Board. Do you want to kind of give us your background as to why you thought this was important for La Crosse County and kind of where you hope this goes?
Yes, absolutely. So I was really excited when Pat Wilson from the community approached me about this. Actually, clean water is one of the reasons why I ran for county board. I had been in Holman, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, when the DNR was looking to approve or disapprove the permit for a CAFO operation that was, it appeared leaking nitrates into the water. And going to that hearing, there were a lot of people from the community and from the county board who were speaking up and saying that they really wanted that liner replaced so that more people, or hopefully no more people, would be told that they shouldn't be drinking out of their wells. So that was very inspirational. And then I also went to our Sustainability Institute, had a half day on clean water, and I got to sit right next to a bunch of county board members, and I could see that it was important to them, an important issue. So I thought, oh, the county board would probably be a good fit in making changes with water. So it's been great to have, again, community members approach, and it was so great that they already came ready with example referendums that had been passed in the other communities. River Alliance had a really good toolkit put together, so that was really helpful. And then we also got some editing help from Carolyn Jenkins. So again, just really nice that a lot of resources and people helping were there. My hope is that it passes, and some people say, it doesn't have a ton of teeth. There's no, money or anything attached in terms of what will be done after this. But like Johnson, said, the more momentum behind this, really, the better off it is. In actually about a year ago, the county board passed racism as a public health crisis. And even though that had no money, I have seen now it brought up in many meetings, and as we're looking at different things, we say, are we acknowledging that referendum that we passed? So I think this clean water referendum has the capability to be the same, where decisions that are being made will look back on this referendum and make sure that they are in line with that. I also think with momentum, sometimes money, grants or different funding does get allocated to places that have said, hey, we are working on this issue. So my hope is that there will be more attention and more resources paying attention to making sure that hopefully nobody else is told that they can't drink from their own faucet.
Excellent, thank you. Jamie, did you have any negative comments in terms of getting this on the county board, or was it pretty, I don't want to say unanimous, but was there widespread support for it?
There was mainly widespread support. There was a little bit of money allocated just when the board had approved it to put it on the ballot. There is a cost to put things on the ballot and have people vote. So that was a little bit of a discussion. And then, you know, the people that were mainly against it were kind of feeling maybe like, well, why do we have to do this? Why can't we just, you know, say that we believe in clean water? Why do we have to pass a referendum? So not too much kickback, but I guess a little discussion again on if it doesn't have much attached to it, is it actually important? And again, I feel it is, and most of the county board members did as well. So it wasn't too hard to get it passed at the county board level, but there was definitely some discussion.
Well, I've got a couple questions, Mary. I'm not sure if you do either, and we'll see if anybody else from the audience has questions as well. I guess one of my questions for you both is, I think that some of us have been a little disappointed at the inability of the Natural Resources Board to adopt health-based standards for PFAS contamination, which are an important contaminant in this area. And so I'm just wondering, this referendum, is it intended to address legislators, but also the Natural Resources Board and the agency responsible for setting health-based standards to protect us in terms of drinking water? I'm not sure if either one of you, Johnson, you want to try that one?
Yeah, I can briefly answer. So this is one of the things that I forgot to mention, where we love the referendum because it's required by law to be given results delivered and studied by the top elected officials. So just offhand, the legislature and the governor, but you're absolutely right. That's one of the things we're excited about is other agency heads, et cetera. This is part of the benefit of this, is that we have something tangible that they will all have to, well, they're all supposed to look at. So absolutely.
Great. And another question I have is with respect to the timing of this. Do you feel like, so you're kind of covering the western part of the state here. Do you feel that this is going to help drive voters to the polls? Do you think this is a topic that can unite both rural and urban communities? You know, there's so much going on these days where they tend to be very divisive issues. And so I'm wondering if you view this as kind of a starting point for getting rid of divisiveness and having there be some commonality of interests.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be great if we see, you know, people working together towards any goal, but definitely towards clean water. I'm hoping it's a place where people feel like we can work together, multiple parties. So yes, I'm hoping that it does set ground for working together. Johnson, did you want to, she did ask just in terms of parts of Wisconsin, are you?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually what's so fascinating. You know, I am fairly new. I've only been spending the summers up in Wisconsin until a year ago. So I'm still learning, but what we've been talking about is just interesting you mentioned that, because I hope this shows up. But what makes Wisconsin fairly unique is the fact that the state is split into two significant basins, right? We have pieces feeding the Great Lakes, but then the majority of the state feeding the Mississippi. That's actually a problem in the sense we're trying to figure out, we need all Wisconsinites just identifying with water, period, right? But the amazing diversity of water in Wisconsin, people often have their own kind of local issues and their own local views and uses. That's absolutely what we're hoping for. And I throw the analogy out of as a quilt, right? Each square of a quilt is just a little bit unique, but when you put them all together, that's when the real magic happens. And so that's what we're hoping to really boost the momentum driving in November, because you asked about voting. We don't expect this to have, you know, for the spring election, much impact. And I'm afraid to say the fall is going to be so interesting. I won't dare to say that our issue will be at the top, but that's absolutely the hope.
Mary, I was wondering if you had any questions?
Well, I do have a question, and this is just from me. Jamie, you mentioned that on the board that there were some people who had some objections, and I'm not, what generally, not just your county board, but to me, the referendum just sounds so common sense. You know, who can be against clean water? But what are some of the objections that people would have for this not being made into a law, or even saying yes onto this referendum?
Yeah, and without trying to get maybe too political, I think I hope, right, we all want to have clean water, and so it does feel right like a very, how could anyone be against that? I just, from the discussions, it was maybe hard to say. People who were or voted against it did start out with, I think this is a very good idea, and maybe have priorities that they would like to see covered before drinking water, or feel maybe that if clean water restrictions go in place at some point, that maybe it would affect something that they are doing business-wise, maybe, or personally. So I think that maybe felt, without speaking directly for anyone, like those are potential reasons why people could be against that. Does that make sense? Like allocating resources towards clean water is maybe not their highest priority.
All right, is there any opposition from industries at all on this? For example, I just it was at Canoocopia, and I attended a session on the copper mining up in the Bayfield Great Lakes area, and so is there?
Yeah, I think you hit that on the head. Right, if somebody's profit, either business or personal profit, it could be affected, right, by some regulations being put in down the road. That might be a reason to potentially oppose. You might know this, having Erin Brockovich come next week to Viterbo, and thinking of her story, right, that it was a company that was leaking stuff into the groundwater. That's not always the case, but it can be. So yeah, I think sometimes if there are people who are putting stuff in the groundwater, sometimes that's a reason not to want to stop what they're doing. But hopefully that is not the case. Hopefully people care for everyone's health over business and profit. Mm-hmm.
Robin, I don't have nobody. If people are listening, but
Yeah, I think the only question I'll ask, maybe as a closing question for Jensen, Jensen, how hard was it to get this wording, and for the other counties or other parts of the state, the goal is to have the exact same language so that we're speaking with a united voice. Is that correct? And was it hard to come up with that? And do you feel like that language captures what your intent is?
Yeah, so I know that it was difficult, and I think this is the thing when you have a well-crafted sentence, it reads incredibly simply, right? If you read that sentence, but what is packed into this was weeks of discussion and debate, a lot of outside stakeholders. And let's face it, the word right, that's a trigger word for a lot of people. But this is the point. We're trying to get the discussion and the dialogue going on this, that look, I hate bearing bad news, which is, being a water organizer, I do this too often. I think people understand every trend in Wisconsin of all the issues we've been tracking for 20 years, they're all getting worse. Okay, so this is the problem, right? We're trending in the wrong direction. So the idea of a right in the simple language is meant to get that discussion going. Because look, if this doesn't get fixed and it just gets worse, somebody's going to have to take some responsibility. And so far, starting with the Walker administration, we have been avoiding that responsibility every session. And I don't know if that precisely answered your question, other than to say it did take a lot of time. We would like the language to be the same. But the other thing I like about referendums, and Supervisor O'Neill can attest to this, you know, the enabling, you know, the resolution itself, you can put as much language as you want that the board is then passing along with the basic question. And that's something where we feel this is a great package, because everybody's voting, moving towards the same goal, but they all have a little bit of way to, you know, personalize the actual referendum resolution. It's confusing, but it's actually a resolution that puts the referendum on the ballot.
Perfect. And so I guess from either one of you, do you have any closing comments? I promised we would keep this to a half hour, and we're just about there. So any other final thoughts that you'd like to get in?
Just thank you for having us. It is great to get the word out, and I'm hoping people get out on April 5th to vote yes for clean water.
And I'll say, I hope everybody gets out on March 25th over to Viterbo, because it's going to be, I think it's going to be an amazing Friday. And then, as she mentioned, special guest speaker Thursday night as well. So, which will sell out, I'm guessing. Not sell out, but fill up.
Fill up. We do have a community calendar on our website, and so we'll make sure to add that information to our community calendar so that we help share that information.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Johnson and Jamie. We're really grateful for your time and appreciate your efforts on getting this on the ballot for La Crosse County. I do want to remind members that our legislative breakfast is this Saturday, and you can still register by logging into the League of Women Voters of the La Crosse area website at lwvlacrosse.org. And our April program is going to be focused on climate actions in our backyard, urban, rural, and suburban specific activities that are going on that people may not be aware of. That's going to be on April 11th from 11:30 till 1, and you can register for that or any of our programs on our website. So this concludes our program. Be safe. Remember that early voting has already started. We hope to see you at future votings, and get out and vote. Thank you so much.